confirm it with him.
Good.
Good evening and welcome to the School Building Committee for the Georgetown Middle High School project, Tuesday, February 10th, 2015. We don't have any public, so I'll get right to the minutes. Would anyone care to make a motion for the minutes from January 13th, 2015?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Eric does. Okay, motion carries. The invoices are from municipal, DRA, to the amount of $66,535 and no cents.
So moved. Second.
Okay, did anyone have any discussion? Did you have a chance to look over them? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There you go. Okay, I guess that brings us to you and the monthly
I
report.
think, yeah, Chuck passed out the monthly report, and it's pretty straightforward. The 90% documents have been submitted, waiting for the responses back from MSBA, and whatever comes in and with the form of responses will be added to addendas, because the 100% set of documents were delivered on Friday. So the documents that were distributed for bidding purposes were also delivered to MSBA. Anything that comes up by way of anything that MSBA points out of the commissioning agent, they'll be included as addendas during the bidding process so that they're included in the documents. This past month, obviously, the reviews are done of the 90s. The reviews were done, obviously, of anything that had to do with the discussion relative to completing the 100%. The job is, like I said, on the street. Today, Courtney sent through an update on plan holders. There were 70 sets distributed. When you eliminate the duplications and plans that were distributed to us and yourself, there were 60 sets of documents. Of the 60, we identified 10 general contractors, potentially 10 general contractors on that list. So, again, it's a good start. They were only out on Friday, so it's a good start. There's actually a walk around at the school tomorrow at 3 o'clock with potential bidders to give them an opportunity to see the conditions on the site. And everything will move forward so that the file sub-bids, as noted in the second paragraph, next month's activities, file sub-bids are due the 26th, and the GCs are due the 12th. There was a little minor glitch in the extension of those dates, but that's where we are with those dates.
How many do you expect?
I'm sorry?
How many do you think are gonna show up?
How many bids will we receive? Well, I'm hoping that we get anywhere between 6 and 8 out of the 10 that have picked up. And it doesn't mean there won't be others picking up. It's still fairly early.
Is
It's
Brait,
really early.
Yeah.
doing it?
I-
Too small a project.
I haven't, yeah, he mentioned he would, but I didn't see him on the pickup list. Doesn't mean they can't pick up, because like I say, it's still
Yeah,
fairly
I
early.
was just curious.
But I would think that, I'd be surprised if he did. It's a small project for Brayton.
Yeah.
So again, like I said, right now, it's, moving along, if you look at the schedule, it's right now moving along so that we can make an award early in April. I mean, if you look at our schedule, it says GC, award GC bids on the 18th. That's the notification. Then a contract signing would take place, and then there's a mobilization to start the project paperwork-wise on the 9th of April, and then actually during vacation, they can get started in the auditorium. And more importantly, they can get started, obviously, on the shop drawings and so forth. So, again, like I said, we're on target. It's a multi-phase situation. They can get started there. Right after school gets out, they start in the main building. And we gave them some respite on the back section of the science rooms, because that area there is a little bit more complex. That'll be done. That's gonna carry out through, I'm sorry, the front part of the building. That'll carry on through the end of November. So, again, like I said, everything is on target. From a budget standpoint, not a whole lot has changed. If you look at the budget standpoint, the biggest wild card remains the GC bid. And you can look down toward the bottom, construction contract, the approval was at the 5861 figure. And right now, our fingers are crossed that we come in at that number or less. You see, we still have the contingencies haven't been touched. There's nothing else that is overridden on the budget. So we are, at this stage, we're in good shape. Budget-wise, we're in good shape. Schedule-wise, we're in good shape. We have a good level of participation so far on the individuals who have picked up documents, both the subs and the generals. So I'd say at this stage of the game, we're as in good a shape as you can have.
Okay. Great. Anyone have any questions? Okay. Well, Courtney or Carl, would you like to
Not
do your
much to
update?
add. We can show you what the documents look like, another telephone book of specifications and
A mini science.
half-size
And this
set
is
of
small,
drawings.
right?
Yeah,
This is
this is-
half size.
I have the full
Yeah,
size set in
It's
the
not
car.
proportional. We hope that bidders don't price it by the pound.
Yeah.
They sometimes feel how thick it is, but.
There'll be a quiz on these at the next meeting, so just you might want to bone up on some of this stuff.
If you get us our copies, we'll read them.
Yeah.
There were a few comments from the MSBA that we did manage to get in here. We do have to respond formally to their comments like every other submission, and there may be some back and forth there that ends in the agenda. There may also be invariably questions that the bidders asked. We've already gotten some calls, right? From bidders who are starting to look at the drawings with questions, and if there is, a gap in the information, we'll issue an addenda for that too.
Okay.
Pat mentioned the walkthrough tomorrow.
With small projects, do you expect a lot of change orders than, let's say, a big project like with
Mostly the
Well,
renovation.
it's more that this is, because it's a renovation, that there'd be a higher percentage, not necessarily because it's small.
I would agree with that. It's
It's
a
the
renovation job that brings more change orders
Yeah.
than it does the size of the
That's what I
job.
was wondering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
Because
so-
there's more hiddens. In a renovation job, you open up a wall, you find something that nobody knew about, it's a change.
So we withdraw more from our contingency then, or?
Well, you would expect to spend, percentage-wise, you'd expect to spend more in changes on a renovation job.
Yeah, and the contingency is higher on this job
Yeah.
as a percentage.
And MSBA has a higher reimbursement rate.
Even though their reimbursement rates are small anyway,
still
they've reduced
small,
them to
but-
2 and 1, but
Yeah.
we carry a realistic number, although a lot of it won't be reimbursed, you still have to carry a realistic
Right.
number. So, the fact that they're reimbursing becomes incidental, just like they tell you. We're not gonna tell you what change orders you should and shouldn't do. You should do whatever you have to do. We'll just tell you what we're gonna reimburse.
But like our biggest job, biggest expense would be the roof. How much change order can you expect from roofing job?
Well, again, like I
Yes,
said,
isn't it
there,
packaged?
in this particular project, to obviously buffer and add some dollars besides the contingency, there are also some allowances in there. We have allowances in there to replace some roof deck that might be deteriorated. That's besides the contingency, because you anticipate when you take it up, you're gonna find something.
Yeah.
If you can logically anticipate you're gonna find something, carry some dollars for it. Do it on an allowance basis, so many square feet, so much a square foot. That actually allows you to draw it out of the base and not impact your contingency, which is obviously part of the reimbursement. So, I mean, it provides, again, like I say, a way of getting in a realistic amount of dollars in an area where it's anticipated logically that there'll be some extra cost, but you get it in the base number. It's
We-
not coming
we
out of
have-
contingency.
We have a couple things like that for
Yeah.
wet insulation on the roof,
Right.
deck replacement, that kind of thing.
Okay. Just want to be forewarned, that's all.
And in regard to addenda, while we're mentioning that too, I don't know, did you guys get a copy of that
change order?
PSS?
Yes.
Yes.
Number 10.
Number 14,
That's for the other
No,
project.
that's for Pembroke.
that's for Pembroke. Then no.
PSS 10.
This is an extra service request from DRA.
We can pass around a couple copies.
One of the things that typically happens, obviously, we just mentioned addenda, that additional information is issued. It's not in full-size drawings, usually it's, in sketches, often 8.5 by 11 inch sketches or something like that. And the same with the specifications. We don't reissue the whole book, obviously, because, we need to change one line in a paragraph. We issue that and say, on page 28 in this paragraph, change the word "and" to "the" or something. Previously, those changes would be literally cut and paste into the documents so that you could have a compiled set of the base drawings plus all the addenda, so when you're out building the building, you know you're looking at all the latest information, because if you just looked at this and not the addenda, you'd miss, what comes next. Nowadays, through the, wonders of technology and all, obviously a lot of this is all produced digitally, we have better means of meshing that together so that it can be, reprinted. But still, we have to sort of take some time to cloud the things that have changed. You literally draw this squiggly line around it, so if you were to look at the set, you'd see, that word "and" has changed to "the," and it would be highlighted, usually with a notation that says in addendum 2, this was changed. Called a compiled set, or conform set. It conforms
Yeah.
with the drawings and the.
And what we would do on each on each sheet that has an addendum item on it, we put it like a little triangle down at the bottom, so you know that there's an addendum item on that sheet. And we do that for our drawings, our consultants' drawings, everyone that's,
And it can be
has
done
any-
for
and
the
for the
specifications
specifications,
as
too.
well, as opposed to having sort of
same thing.
literally cut and paste in there. But it's come to be expected now by some contractors, even though you're not obligated as the owner to provide it. We usually do it for ourselves in managing. Sometimes Pat's guys do it for themselves.
Yeah,
The cut and
we always
paste, yeah.
ask for it, because when you have a job that has, several
Yeah.
addendas with a lot of items on it, rather than have guys trying to, go through and
Piecemeal.
follow an addenda and then
Yeah.
refer back to the documents, it's much easier to obviously have it all consolidated, makes for much smoother operations in the field.
But technically, it is an extra service, not a standard service, because like I said, you don't have to do it, you don't have to provide it to the contractors either. So it's your option, and you don't have to necessarily act on this tonight either if you want to think about it. But
Have you had any
did do it for
legal
Pembroke.
problems, or where if words were missing, then
We have-
they-
it brings up some interesting legal issues, because some bidders will say, no, I don't want the conform set, because what I bid on was this set of drawings and these, various pieces of paper that were issued as addenda. That's my legal contract. And when you try to merge them together and reprint it, they'll say, well, now I gotta go through this new set to make sure you did a
New contract.
We have a,
So we issue a disclaimer
Yeah.
that says, this is not the legal contract document. The legal contract is still the set of addenda and the original drawings. Technically, for those few, there's a few subs out there that are very, legal-minded, like Wayne J. Griffin Electric. They'll generally say, no, we're not gonna use the conform set, we'll stick with our own.
And that's, we can simply substantiate, that's pretty much what happens. We'll usually ask for a conform set for the benefit, and usually the architectural firms will have that same disclaimer. They'll simply say, we've done it as a convenience, but again, like I said, the contractual documents and the addendas that are freestanding of the terms of the contract, if we miss something, you can't be depending on the conform set. It's a convenience,
Right.
so.
So is your recommendation that we approve it or not? then?
Yeah, we
You think
feel
we
very
should?
strongly that, yeah, because we would normally always ask for a conform set from the architectural firm.
Okay. So is there any reason why we shouldn't deal with this tonight then?
We haven't seen any proposal
Oh,
yet.
that's not what this is?
Yeah, we haven't
okay.
seen, we would recommend it, but we haven't seen a proposal yet.
Okay, so this is the full
this is,
warning.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is just a heads up.
Did we
We,
follow this procedure on the Pembroke project, or no?
Yes,
We did.
yeah.
Okay.
We do it on every job.
Okay. So that's our heads up then.
At your next meeting, then.
Okay.
we'll have the full
Would you
proposal.
just
Perfect.
pass that back? Courtney, they might need it. Okay. All right. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
Rest of the agenda, I don't think so, Ellie. I think we're all set.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything?
All set.
All right. Well, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. And we'll just slip right into our next meeting. Courtney, is this? Oh, thank you. Okay, good evening and welcome to the School Building Committee for the Pembroke Project. This is February 10th, 2015. I'd like to approve the minutes of January 13th, 2015.
So moved.
Second. Did anyone have any questions or comments on the minutes? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Motion carries. And our invoices this evening.
Hopefully, I was looking for an email, I sent out 2 sets, I hope you got the second set. I was looking for my emails today and I didn't see that I did, so.
Yeah,
We did get
you
two
did.
sets.
I got the
Yes.
You got the
You
same
did.
set for
Yep.
Pembroke,
Yes.
you have a later one with extra
Yes.
invoice on it?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, good. God, it's on email.
And I'm assuming that this packet contains everything from the second email?
Yes, use this as a second
All right.
set, please, I gave you the total just to make sure.
All right.
That's the $1,023,240.
It was a long list.
Yes, it was a long list.
Yeah, I can go over, some of these are new, so I can go over them with you if you want, if you have any questions.
Well, I'm interested in dry cleaning. What are we dry cleaning?
Well, I needed my suits done.
The banners.
Oh, good. They probably need that.
Oh.
So
Okay.
the
30
I
years
was,
of
actually,
dust.
I was wondering about that too.
There's actually 2 invoices for those banners, it's essentially central drapery and dry cleaning, the $150, that's for actually cleaning them. And then the On Guard, which is up a little bit higher for $476, that's for, they're required to be fire treated.
Oh, good.
My
Okay.
understanding is the fire treating went well and they did not screw up the banners, so that's always a concern, so
That's
we were very pleased to hear that.
We're talking the quilts.
The quilts, yeah.
The quilts. Okay.
A.T. Johnson, that's Andrew Johnson, that's the printing company, that's the printing for the
Right.
FF&E bids, which we're gonna go over later. And Comay Electric, the 524 and the 681, these are for fire alarm wires that run up the existing access drive. One of them was damaged by a contractor, we don't know who yet, but as soon as we find out, we're gonna back charge them, but I have to pay the bill up front.
Okay.
And the other one was, they came back because they had faults in other areas and found out there was a town problem that the wire's starting to fall apart.
Okay.
There will be a charge to replace that wire from Elm Street all the way up. They're working on that now and a price, and I'll work with Mike Farrell how that gets paid.
All right.
It goes up to a certain pole, then goes on underground and goes in from there.
Okay. And then in addition to that, we have Copeland and Page, our attorneys, UTS, Verizon, Municipal, DRA, and Brake.
Yeah, Verizon is a portion of that is the installation costs, the original installation cost for the Verizon fiber. And then a portion of that is actually gonna be a back charge to Brake for service that they're using to do testing and other things now. Wes got it installed for us far in advance of any job we've ever had, so this is great news. But now we're getting monthly bills, and since they're using it to test the systems, we think the bill should be put on them, so we're gonna work with them to have a
Okay.
portion of this bill.
All right, so the invoices come to $1,023,240.30.
I move that we pay the invoices as printed, as noted.
Okay? Anyone want a second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh, no,
Aye.
any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you for your explanations.
Not a problem, I knew some of those were a little odd, so.
Yeah.
I would have been surprised if you didn't ask me about the track.
You know what, after I read it, I realized what it probably was, but did want to be sure.
Yeah, it didn't explain it.
And because of the age of them, they really needed to be dry cleaned anyways. It was time.
I've heard they've come out really nice. I can't wait to see them.
Yeah. And also the fire retardant, I think, will help stiffen them up a little bit.
That was required, it was
So-
a requirement of fire chief at the very beginning, so.
Yeah. Actually, I think they were treated before they were hung anyways. But I think it comes off during the cleaning process, so you have to reapply. All right. Pat, would you like to do
Sure, I'll just run
the
through the report. yeah.
report?
Just starting on page 2. First thing is noted, the snow removal. I would say this month we lost at least 1 week out of the month. Even though we're working predominantly inside, those storms that hit, they obviously, those Mondays, they were, nobody was able to get to the job. The Tuesday required, clean up to make access for individuals to come to work. So, again, like I said, they did the best they could. They were on site both those days. They were skeleton crews, but again, certainly there was some lost time this month, which, we're paid dividends because the job has been so far ahead. So again, like I said, it is not it's of no impact, but still gonna be done early on the project. Obviously, concrete masonry, nothing being done there. On the exterior, they're working on roof trim, some of the soffit material around the outside, storefront and curtain wall installations. Really, most of it is touch-up. The most significant item right now is the glass in the media area.
Is it in yet?
They're still waiting for the glass. Every meeting we hear another update, and it should be showing up imminently. I'll know it's gonna be there when the trucks roll in, but right now, that's been an issue that, but they've plywooded in, so it's whether, and it's not holding anything up inside. They're still able to work in that media area without any interruption. They just gotta get the plywood out, put the glass in when it comes in. On the inside, things that are in process this month, I mean, drywall touch-up and patching, because most of the drywall is complete.
That's the one.
Final coat of painting, although there are some areas that they're leaving the final off until they get some of the punch list work done. They go through that. Wood doors and hardware, resilient flooring restarted. We think where the issues that have come up with the moisture mitigation system unbonding, they went back in, they finally had several people come in from Texas, and they did the analysis. They've done the repairs, and quite frankly, at this point, they seem to be holding, and the flooring contractor is the best watchdog we have, because they are not gonna put anything down on anything that's suspect. They're doing their own checking to make sure that there's no problem. And that now is moving along unencumbered. The terrazzo tile.
Before you say anything, I wanna just point out that if you look on the front, you can see a photograph
Yeah.
of some of the flooring that's going in.
That's some of the flooring in the corridors, yeah.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
I took some pictures of some also. I saw some of the leaves and stuff, and it looks very nice.
Important thing is, that's not blue flooring that went down, that's a waterproofing membrane. I know it well, cause I got it all over my pants that day. It peels off. I just wanna give anybody concerned that there's.
Yeah. Oh, up here, he's talking about the
Yeah.
top photo, yeah.
I thought that was actually the dry cleaning bill to clean his
Yeah.
pants off. Yeah, that's what I thought that was.
There you go.
Yeah. The terrazzo, I think you were probably there in the
Yes, I was
discussion.
there.
The terrazzo tile finally showed up and so forth. Unfortunately, there were a couple of colors that were wrong in the terrazzo pattern. I actually spoke to Bob Brait today because the word came back that there were 3 colors that were wrong. Supposedly, he verified there's 2 colors wrong in 3 different areas. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna dry lay the whole floor with a minimal adhesion to the floor. And when the new colors come in, they're gonna just get the new colors. They'll be able to pick that up, and there's a little mesh in the back that fastens the pieces together. It's almost like just taking them and snapping them off and putting the new color in. So it's a means and method item. We were initially concerned that they would be installing it and then shipping it out. It's not gonna install it. What they're gonna do is put it down with a minimal adhesion. They'll be able to take up individuals, snap the pieces off, not break the pieces, but you'll notice like terrazzo has kind of a metal separation between the colors. That's where it'll actually will snap off.
So the pieces that arrived,
Yeah.
Kelly was
let me
on
clear
site.
this up a little bit. So the way the pieces arrived, it's almost like it's a tile, okay? But there's, for example, there might be a metal piece, and this was supposed to be blue, and this was like a tan or a green or whatever. Well, this showed up green. So I think what Pat's
Yeah.
saying is, when the blue shows up, they'll remove just the blue,
Take
but
the
they'll
piece
leave
up,
this piece.
Take that piece off, they'll take the whole thing up, they'll snap off the piece that's the different color. And I
Right.
should have explained, each tile can have 2 different colors in it,
Some of them.
separated, some of them
Right,
have 3.
depends on where the pattern
So
falls.
they'll take that up, they'll take off, they'll just simply snap off the pieces that are the wrong color, adhere the new ones, and put it back down.
And the minimal adhesive is, I mean, would we not have been better off with a stronger adhesive?
Oh,
Is that-
we
They'll
will have
re-
a stronger adhesive, what they're doing is they're putting these
The
down so
final.
they can
Then
pick them
they'll
up.
put a new adhesive down and then they'll put
Exactly.
the, well,
Exactly, yeah,
And
yeah.
when do we anticipate the new terrazzo tiles to arrive?
Probably April.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
Bra-
lot of
According to
cutting.
Braid, I asked him, I said, why don't you just wait and just, he said, well, we don't wanna wait because A, we can't get the elevator inspected, and I think he's obviously trying to rush to get to obviously substantial completion, which whether that gets him there or not remains to be seen, because there's many other things that involve substantial completion. It's a means and methods, situation. All we can do is raise a cautionary note. Whatever you do, we wanna make sure. Initially, we thought that they'd be literally installing them with the proper adhesive and then breaking them out. We don't wanna see anything else
No.
broken out. That's not the way they're gonna do it. So, we'll see what happens. It's a means and methods. What they owe us, is the final product approved by the architect and obviously the committee.
I guess my only concern would be the shifting, even with a minor adhesive that might
Yeah,
take
any
place.
gaps in there?
Again,
You
like I
know,
said,
what are they gonna do, stop people from walking in there?
The
well,
only thing I can tell you.
they'll
from my
certainly cover it.
experience-
You're not gonna leave that exposed. You're not gonna have
No.
construction traffic going over that
That's
stuff.
why to wait
Yeah.
didn't seem to be a bad idea, because that's where people are tramping up,
Yeah,
going over.
yeah.
But getting to your question, how can you be assured? I walked with Courtney in Carl's interiors person. I have been doing this a long time. This interiors person is a bulldog.
Are we talking, oh, yeah,
Right.
She
Anne Marie.
is so good.
Yeah.
She stood right there, and boy, she had to give the bad news to these flooring contractors, and she didn't miss a beat. I have no doubt that she will do the right thing when she reviews these finishes and make sure it sits the right way. I mean, I was impressed. It was well done. So, it was not good news she had to bring, but
no.
she did a good job.
No, I was
So I
glad I
feel
was
good.
there that day, actually,
Yeah.
so I have a feel for what's going on.
It's very elaborate. I mean,
Yeah,
the
it's a
layout is
big
very,
deal.
very elaborate. I think you'll be very, very impressed when you see it.
And it's not an issue that we would want to change. I mean, the reality is, when you walk into the building, on the left, we intentionally designed the blue for the brook,
That's
for
right.
Pembroke.
Yeah.
And that blue then flows into the main office. And so the main office is structured off of blue. So, you know, it's really meant to go that way. So for them to say, well, what about just leaving the green? It
Yeah.
doesn't work. From a design standpoint, it doesn't work.
So there'll be many eyes watching that
Yeah.
installation and the replacement of the material.
Didn't you say there was a adhesive problem last month and they had to fly people out from Texas to?
That was the laminate.
That was on the,
floor.
Was it
that was
the
on-
last
that was
one?
on the
That's the third
resilient
floor,
floor.
right?
Linoleum.
That's the linoleum in the classrooms and the corridors.
So that's been
This is the,
solved?
this is the terrazzo. That's
The terrazzo's in the entrance hall.
That's
so,
the
yeah.
entrance hall and
Correct.
it
What-
runs out and down some of the smaller hallways, yeah.
Okay.
Why do we have to put down the wrong colored terrazzo? Why don't we just wait to put down the,
That's,
That's a
again, that's
means.
a means and methods. That's their prerogative.
okay.
Yeah, that's their prerogative.
They're saying
long as they give
that
us the
makes
finished
sense.
products, yeah.
We can
Okay,
write a lot
all
of
right.
things into our
Yeah.
plans
Yeah.
and specs, but common sense isn't
As
one
long
of
as
them.
it all comes out at the right floor, at the right time, at the right
Are they
price.
committed to doing that, or are they gonna talk about it tomorrow?
I talked, according to Bob Bray today, when I spoke to him, he's pretty much committed to do it. But again, like I said, that everything is subject to change, you know? That was the reaction today, but who knows after Bonomo.
you think
Remember,
about
this
it.
is Bonomo's idea to keep it going.
Yeah.
So what happens between the two of them remains to be seen. All we want to make sure is we have obviously the right product, the right quality,
Mm-hmm.
the right installation procedures, and they're committed to get us there. The
Right.
route they take can be a little different than what we would do.
How does something like that happen, that they get
Yeah,
it wrong?
that was the million-dollar question,
Yeah.
Carol.
Yeah, it's not arbitrary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We put colors on virtually all materials when the drawings go out to bid. At the stage we're at, the drawings I just showed you for the high school, for instance, so that it takes away a lot of the ambiguity or confusion on bidders' parts. They know whether they're, gonna have one color or lots of different colors and what the colors are, because sometimes bright yellows are more expensive than tans or something. So to own the right level, we had everything on there. Then we had, several meetings following that with the subcommittee on colors, and that's when the blue was changed. But it was changed well before they ordered the material, and we issued a revised drawing. It's just that when
Back
they
in
went to
June.
bought the tile, they went back to the original drawing. For some reason, didn't look at the latest. It wasn't an addendum. It was actually came out during the construction phase, so it's called
One of those
Architects
things, wrong piece of paper
Supplemental
got there.
Instructions.
Yeah.
It turns
So-
out the flooring contractor didn't send the revised drawing to the manufacturer.
And also,
That's a problem.
I noticed that the colored drawing wasn't sitting right there with the installers either.
Right,
Because
they
that
didn't.
would have made it a
Yeah,
little
we
more
go to the
glaringly
trouble too of
obvious.
actually issuing them not just black and white drawings, but color drawings too, so they have something to go by
Right,
as
because
well.
otherwise it's just shaded
Yeah,
shades of
Shaded.
gray, and how are you
Paint
gonna
by
know if
numbers.
you're,
No,
that's
that, yeah.
incorrect installation
literally
of
paint by
colors.
numbers, it says A1, B2, 3.
Yeah, it's very interesting the way they lay it out.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me, just so you know. And this is why. You know, without having a pattern to follow, I don't understand how they can do it. But, okay, that's on them and,
So that's that's the
Yep.
terrazzo, but
Right.
it will be impressive when it's done and complete and the right colors are installed.
right.
Other things that have been going on, the wood ceilings in the media center have been ongoing. Acoustic ceilings now, they're being whited out. All the above ceiling inspections and the C wing and most of the B wing have been completed. So now the ceiling tile can be installed in all those areas. To make the inspectors have looked at it, the engineers have looked at it, commissioning people have looked at it, and they're satisfied with what they see above the ceilings. So you can now install the tile to block out the roughing above the ceiling. Elevator installation is complete. Again, they're waiting on the lobby finishes for final inspection. Lobby has to be complete before the elevator inspector will come in. Food service equipment is completed. They're talking about a startup schedule. Under mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, startups are underway. The gray water systems have been started. Hot water heaters have been started. So the plumbing is very well along the completion route. HVAC, again, same situation. The boilers are running. They're supplying heat to the building. The contractor's paying obviously for heat and extending the warranties on the boilers because he's using them for temporary heat. That is a much better source of heat. It's a much more even heat in the building, which obviously is much more beneficial to things like millwork and casework and things like that. Eliminates a lot of issues with things that are laminated and can potentially come apart. We've had a little bit of that before they get to this situation. They'll have to repair some of those things. The rooftop equipment, again, they're scheduling startups. They don't want to do it prematurely because you don't want to start the rooftop equipment that bring a lot of air into the building and circulate things till the building is clean. So you'll notice that a lot of the registers are covered with plastic to protect them from taking dust into the system. When they're satisfied, when the HVAC contractor is satisfied, the building is sufficiently clean, then again they'll schedule the startup of those units. The only place we're using temporary heat right now is in the gymnasium. You'll notice there's a temporary heater out there because there is no hydronic heating circulating in there, so that is providing temporary heat. And that gymnasium basically is almost completed. The flooring is done, everything else up above is fine. Electrically, permanent power is completed and everything is in operation right now. Temporary electric is no longer necessary. There's a lot of connections going on. We're down from 30 some odd. I think we're down to maybe 15 electricians. A lot of that has to do with finalizing the tie-ins and the connections and making all of the final hookups to major pieces of equipment. The control system wiring is continuing. Wiring for technology, fire alarm, and all these systems are all going to be leading to obviously startups and testing of all of these systems. Fire protection is virtually 99% complete. What they have is a few escutcheons to put on some sprinkler heads and so forth. Under the general category, the Christmas Day break-in, the case has been solved. The individuals were apprehended, and obviously they're going through whatever judicial process is required under those circumstances.
When did you say the inside security camera is gonna be up and running?
It won't be done until
Yeah, they're-
spring.
Yeah, it'll be spring before they're running. Yeah, they've got to go through all of the startup, the testing and fine tuning
Equipment
and.
too is very susceptible, as you can imagine, to dust and dirt, so
Yeah.
they're just not ready to.
They're always trying to keep the sensitive items to the very end because again, they're so susceptible to damage and dust and so forth. Next month, anticipated activities, nothing expected outside. Yeah. The goal is to complete all the envelope work. Anything else that's left in the way of, glass and any miscellaneous items, pieces of trim and eaves and soffit work to get that completed. Continue completion of the metal edge roof, the metal roof edge and trim. Interior, again, just to continue to push the interior finish. Any touch of drywall, painting, ceilings, millwork, casework, lockers, food service equipment. Final installation of ceiling finishes, flooring, and then obviously complete the elevator and get an elevator operations certification from the inspectors. MEP, continuing the final MEP connections, and then beginning the startup and the testing of all the equipment, along with training. All of that involves training. We own a lot of training, operation manuals, and right now Mike and his people are all going through various training arrangements, whether it be gray water, or the generator's been started. We want to make sure that everybody is well up to date before this building is turned over and obviously placed in the hands of the town. You want to make sure that all these systems are running and operational and people have a good handle on how to maintain them. Project schedule, again, we're still ahead of schedule. You know, again, like I said, ideally, we still have the opportunity to get to a point where in the end of May, we can achieve substantial completion on the building, which will obviously give us a benefit of getting, obviously, some of the punch list work done, so that we will have full control of the building when the furniture starts to roll in. As we said before, many times, there's a blurry area. FF&E starts to come in before you get to substantial completion. It's not uncommon, but then you still have the hassle of who dinged up that wall and who's in this person's way. This way, if we get it done, it'll be ideal, because we'll make a proper transition from the contractor to the owner to the FF&E technology set up and get it completed. Project budget, if you flip to page 5, you can run down the categories, and under the invoice to date, you can run it all the way down and move over to the column that says uncommitted balance remaining. You get down to the very bottom, you'll see that from a contingency standpoint, that's the 479,914, owner's contingency 302, and the number we never want to touch is that 1683, which is the amount of money we underbid the project on. And if you flip over to page 8, if you look at page 8 now takes the project updated for all the change orders officially. Now it did, page 8, you can recall, we have this other item that talks about potential change orders. And though some of these may not be accepted, some of them will be negotiated down, some of them will be eliminated. You can see that between the 68 and the 42, there's another 72, so to be conservative, we subtract the 72 from the 479, and we say that you really have 407 potentially left. If everything that was on the table got approved, you'd have 407, which is about 10% remaining, which means we're in pretty good shape on the budget as well. So the schedule is in very good shape. The budget is in good shape. And if it stops snowing, we'll be feeling a lot better about getting out and finishing the job.
So, a couple questions on that snow. The roofs and all the snow, have you discovered any issues as far as that one flat area maybe where the snow's coming down, or?
We don't, as far as we're concerned, we don't think there's any problem. I would defer to the structural engineers, but our experience has been that these buildings, because of between seismic and between all of the other oversizing for seismic requirements and everything else, we've not yet seen a building that has had any issues come up. Even back 2 or 3 years ago, when people were clearing roofs off and everything else, we had several large projects going on. There was never a concern. That's a question I would obviously defer to DRA and their engineers, but I would be surprised if there were any problems.
Got a pretty good test run, right, with all this snow?
Yeah, this snow's fairly light and fluffy, actually.
That's true.
Even though there's been a lot of it. One thing that has shown up, a small thing, we have some sunscreens to protect large glass areas, and they're actually open veins. They're not solid, and rain, and we thought snow would fall through them. Snow hasn't fallen through on some of these, and we checked with the manufacturer, and he said, you might want to get up there, because it's literally like 4 feet of snow on this cantilevered little sunshade, and so we're going to have Brait shovel that off. It's whatever, 10 feet wide over one piece of glass at the end of the corridor, that special little space at the end of the corridor.
Do we need to do that all the time, I mean,
yeah, that's one of the things. It maybe would be good practice to do. It's not certainly anticipated. It might be unique that for whatever reason the first layer of snow didn't go through, and so now everything else is sitting
It's
there.
so light, it's not going through
It's
at
meant.
all.
It's
Yeah.
meant to. It's like an egg crate, almost like like a light fixture. It's supposed to drop through and block out the sun. They're angled so they block the sun, but let rain and snow go through. That was one surprise. But otherwise, no, with
No
the roofs
leaks.
themselves.
You haven't found any leaks?
Not-
Several years ago,
Yeah.
the code, this is quite a while ago, but the code changed several years ago. And instead of having a 40-pound live load across the entire roof, it acknowledged that when you get high-low conditions, and wind-driven snow, you could actually end up with a whole pocket. It could be 10 feet high at that point.
I mean, if the design doesn't
Code.
work though, should we be looking at an alternative way of shading the room?
I don't think it's that serious, Eric, that
Okay.
we actually have to modify.
I mean,
it.
but if we have to go out and shovel it every time we have a
Well,
storm.
it's pretty unique.
It's very
You know, hopefully it's like once every 10 years maybe, or something like that.
Let's see.
But what I started to say was the code changed, because now the code addresses when you have a high-low condition, you have to assume that the snow is gonna fill up a 45-degree angle. So those areas of steel against that high-low condition have to be beefed up heavier than that. That's where a lot of the problems used to be, where you'd have an unusually high amount of snow piling up in a pocketed area. So that it isn't 40 pounds a square foot, it's 40 pounds a square foot when it's nice and flat. But when you get to a situation where you've got a high-low condition and it's blowing in and piling up there, it's a lot more. So the code says the structural engineers have to accommodate that.
They do that around all the rooftop equipment too, not
Every
only
place-
the weight of the
yeah.
equipment, but also what could build up against it.
Any place there's something higher than that roof, whether it's a piece of equipment or a highest portion of the building, that has to be beefed up.
Well, I want to go back to this other issue though. We've had a very light fluffy snow. What if that had been a thick, wet, heavy snow? Would it then still have to be shoveled off for the same reason?
It may not have built up
Well,
the same
yeah,
way.
It
that's-
seemed even more so, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
not.
what I'm thinking.
What's unusual is that it did build up and not fall through, you know. It's not the weight of it, but.
But
That's
a
what we
wet
think
Are
is
you,
snow,
are you
unusual.
thinking that if it was a wet snow, it would have fallen through?
The temperatures
Right,
probably would have been higher,
right.
and then it wouldn't have built up the same.
but what if
I
they
would
weren't?
say, I would think logic would say the opposite, but
Right.
I have not seen it. But you would think the heavier the snow, the more it's
The
going to
gaps
clump
are-
and the less it's going to fall through.
Yeah, well, the gaps are fairly large. There's a few inches in between each of these slats, so you would never anticipate anything. And
Where,
there's
could you tell me where
slats.
this is again?
At the end of the hallway, you know where we have
The
that.
one facing the woods?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like at the end of area
There's a picture
C,
of it.
there's
Is it on
There's-
each floor? So how are they gonna shovel
on
from the
the-
third floor?
they would need to use a lift or a ladder, and
We're
it's
gonna be able to do that. I
Right.
mean, we're not going to
That's
have
what
that
worries
equipment.
me.
you
So I
are
don't know
gonna
if you
have the
can see
equipment
that.
though.
You are?
Yeah.
So why would we have a design that we know isn't probably working well? There's no other
Pass it around.
tweak that we could do right now to
you
fix
can-
this
I mean,
issue?
Right,
We
could
could
you look
talk-
at a tweak just
We
to
could
see?
talk to the manufacturer to see if the blades can be rotated, but that would be, I think,
Defeat
To
the
have a
purpose?
building that needs maintenance every time it snows, or
No, this
maybe
is a-
potentially not, but potentially yes.
so the manufacturer, the
crazy.
first time we asked him was this week, and we noticed it on Wednesday. And he wrote back and said it should be fine up to 3 or 4 feet. And then he wrote back on Saturday and said, you guys are getting a lot of snow, more than what we would usually expect. Maybe you should shovel it off. And it was one of those things where it's probably okay, but
Just to be sure.
he doesn't want to take liability for if something crazy does happen and you get like a strong, like wind gust 70 mile per hour situation or something like
Which we had
Yeah.
the last storm.
that. If we have a big wind gust, hopefully that would blow right off.
Right, but if it was a
But-
wet snow, it wouldn't, and I guess that's kind of what I'm worried about. Can you find out?
We can
What
do
they
some more
think.
research with it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was a surprise to us because of the design of the system.
It's the beauty of all this snow. We get to see
Right.
how everything works.
Yep.
Right.
Our
Yeah.
roofs, you guys saying,
Yeah.
are fine. I thought maybe there's that one pitch down to that flat area, but you seem to, that's going to be fine, you're saying.
Where the roof garden is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what's the recourse if it doesn't end up doing what it's supposed to do?
Which part are you talking about?
The end piece.
The part
screen.
you're talking about, the stuff that's building.
The sun, you mean the sunshades, you're talking about the
sunshade.
sunshade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand that this might be extraordinary, but let's say it gets shoveled off and we get more snow and it still doesn't do what it's supposed to do, then what happens? Or even next year, when we have snow, it doesn't act.
Well, we find out that this is a every year thing.
I'm
huh?
just trying to understand what,
Well-
how, I don't know how this works, you know?
It seems like
We
it
could
froze.
investigate
The
alternative
snow froze on the bottom. I mean,
shading
I would think that would happen
devices.
fairly frequently.
I mean,
the-
this is
it's
only
weird.
there as like, yeah, you almost might say courtesy. It's like wearing a hat in the bright sunshine. You're screening your eyes from the sun.
Could take the screen off, right?
You could take the screen off, that's
Right,
right.
you could literally take it off.
Yeah.
Nobody lives there. It's at the end of the corridor.
Yeah.
It's only
Yeah.
so if you're there, maybe you turn your back to
We
the
just
window.
wonder when it
and-
collects like
yeah.
that, would
Wait
it
for
cause
the
other
window, I guess.
Don't sit
damage
there
over
when it's-
time,
Is there
right?
a modified
you could
design?
move
Is
it.
there
We may be
another,
able to
like,
take out
Well, that's what Courtney
sunshade?
was talking about. We
We
could
may
look
be-
at the spacing or the
Oh.
angle
Yeah,
of
the
the blades.
spacing.
A
is
couple
the-
Take
blades
out every
out.
other blade or
Right.
something
My
like
fear is
that,
that snow
yeah.
might do more damage down the road than this, right? You're gonna have all that wetness accumulating in there.
It's
I don't
all
know over
hypothetical.
time.
Well, the
in terms
damage
of-
is not that it's going to leak, but
It's gonna fall on
that it's going to
somebody.
break.
Right, it'll
Yeah.
collapse on
It
someone.
did do other damage or hit somebody, yeah.
Right.
Hit someone,
Well,
that
there's
would
a
be my
roof
concern.
underneath. There's a
Oh, there is,
canopy roof,
okay.
So that's
Yeah, it's
fortunate.
gonna-
But still.
It could, just
Snap.
fall and hit the
It mo-
window. That
Oh, yeah,
that's the
that's
worst
true.
case, I guess, in
Yeah.
that sense.
So we should look at that.
Yeah,
My
just
other
see what they
question,
say.
with all this water now, potential water, when this all melts, are we worried about our landscaping and then finishing the site work being pushed back? I mean, do we have any
all-
risks there?
Well, they've gone further than what we anticipated
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the site and the landscaping. They've done stuff that we would have thought was gonna be done in the spring. So right now, they're ahead
Yep.
in terms of the landscaping. So, and they know they know they're in New England. They know where they left it and
This
where
was
they have to
unusual
pick
a little
up.
bit,
So it's all under the contractor's responsibility. to
Right.
start it back
Technically,
up.
we have till the end of the summer too, right?
There's warranty on all
Right.
plant
Yeah.
materials too.
Right.
If they die within a year, they get replaced. That sort of thing. If a shrub's damaged, trees
Right.
damaged.
We do very, thorough walkthroughs of all the plantings and stuff afterwards to make sure that, there's not.
George just brings up a pretty good point, and we technically have to the end of the summer. Is there a, obviously they want to hand it off as soon as they can. We want to hand it off when it's right.
You have to take it. If they're
You
done,
get-
you can't just delay it out of your own convenience.
You can't.
You have to,
You
have
hold,
impartial.
But is there some middle
You
ground
know, you
there?
pay us.
I mean, I understand you can't just say, I don't want it, I don't want it,
Impartial
but.
observers as to the completeness of things.
But we need
It's
to
not
move
easy.
them over too.
It's not easy to get substantial completion, because one of the definitions is it's when the building is ready for its intended use, a portion or a building ready for the intended use. Well, the building itself is a school, so it's gotta be ready as a school. It can't be ready, the third floor on the right, 3 rooms can't be ready,
Right.
because you need everything else to support it.
That's why I was
So-
surprised when you said he wants to put, going back to the
Yeah.
lobby, he wants to put the green down to get substantial, what's the term?
Because they're projecting.
Completion,
They're
but
pro-
if it's the wrong color, does that really count? Cause that's,
Well, again, like I said, that's all gonna be determined as we go along,
He
because
wants to
first
get
of all,
substantial completion of the elevator.
Got it.
And to get the elevator inspected, the lobby has to be
the
finished.
lobby has to be done
Okay.
to
The
get, and that's
inspector
just a
won't show
piece,
up.
that's not substantial
that-
completion of
that
the building,
makes
it's just the elevator.
And the reason is, I'm trying to get an elevator approved by the state. Elevator inspectors can be a very prolonged process. So where he doesn't want to get further down the road,
He's got a
waiting for
short
all this
window.
tile to come in, and then just have something happen with some paperwork to screw him getting the elevator. So he's trying to get the lobbies done so he can get the elevator done, and that just takes one of those headaches away that everybody worries about at the end.
But when you talk about the site though, when you talk about erosion, when they plan on doing the road and putting in the catch basins and the stormwater controls, and so to me, that all falls under site, plantings and everything. So I mean, that's gonna be taking place in the summer when they start doing the road, right?
Right, there are occasions when sometimes the building is declared as substantially complete and
the
able to be
site's not.
used,
The site
but the
is- I
site
would
is
think that
not.
would be the case,
George, so
yeah.
you can separate that out. But
Right.
you still have to be able to get in and out of the building, all the walkways, all the handicap, curb cuts. But if some plantings are not done, sometimes we separate out the substantial completion of the building versus the site and the total project.
And that's why they were rushing in the fall, they were rushing to get, the walkways done, get rid of any tripping hazards, because you have to have code compliant access into the building, or that, you're not gonna get an occupancy permit, you're not gonna get substantial completion. Building's not ready for its intended use. So they really kind of pushed the curbing and the walkways, and to be able to say, we have code compliant access into the building.
Okay. All right, let's move along and you'll get back to us with any other information you have.
Any,
we
any
will
questions on the report or anything else?
No. Okay, so before we get into the technology, Carol, Perhaps you could introduce Wes to the committee for us and explain what his role is
Yep,
with the
so
town.
This is Wes Vaughn, who is our Director of Technology for the district. Wes started in July. And right away hit the ground running, goes to all of the trailer meetings, even when it has nothing to do with him. And has really done, I think, yeoman's work in working with 3SI and, you know, Courtney Carl, the whole committee on, and the administrative team and the teachers trying to identify what's best in the way of technology for the district. Along with that, he also formulated the budget. He works now with Red Kelly from the town, so we're trying to do as many cooperative projects with the town as we can. And actually, the police chief and fire chief want to get together and make sure that their systems dovetail with exactly what we would want to happen. And a lot of that is happening because Wes has really reached out and has been collaborating with people. So
But
I
it
think,
was
you
Red
know,
Kelly.
I think we have needed a director of technology.
I think the timing was
And
perfect.
we needed it now, even though there was
Right.
discussion about arguing for it in this budget. But, you know, we were all successful in coming to an agreement that it was necessary to have it, you know, in this current budget, so we could have Wes involved with all of the discussions and planning. So, you know, we have, Wes is busy all the time and always has something important on his plate, but he seems never too busy to work with whomever he has to work with to get something done. So we're delighted to have him, and so he's here tonight actually to answer any questions regarding technology that we might have.
I'd just say that Wes has been coming to every one of the job meetings, and he's really a great team player. He's been a big help and very conversive when necessary, and a great participant in all the issues.
If he tells you he's gonna do something, he will do it, you know, isn't that true, Wes? Follow-up is outstanding with Wes.
I think trying to coordinate technology between different buildings, especially with something new coming on and then a renovation, I think the timing was crucial to have someone oversee all that, so
But it's
I
been a
think-
fun challenge.
yeah. Well, we're glad you're enjoying it.
So it's a large project, I've done a lot of small projects, but this is the biggest one I've done. It's very neat to get involved and I appreciate it very much.
Well,
The
I
opportunity.
asked, oh, I'm sorry. I asked Wes to come tonight in case some of the questions that pertain to the technology as we talk about it were questions that,
So
answers that might come better from him.
So as we upgrade this technology at Pembroke, how's that gonna leave the other two schools? How are they gonna be lagging behind because of
Built into the renovation of the high school project, we're doing the backbone of the network and the wireless for the school. So we're updating their infrastructure so that they can be equal to what's happening in Pembroke. All the pieces and parts and the products are all gonna be the same in both schools. And we're working with this town, so we all have the same equipment, so we can switch around, we'll all have expertise in it. So, the
All right, so what-
backbone of the network will
It would
be.
be nice
Backbone of
if
the
the
network's
project-
there, but the pieces won't be there in the new
Right,
middle.
it'd be nice if everything was very linear and logical in terms of, you know, we started with the elementary and then we moved everything into the high school. But there are a lot of projects going on at the same time, so our goal has been to coordinate it. For example, teachers and access to their personal computers. Everybody in both schools will have the same computer, right, same teacher computers, same teacher setup. The smart classroom concept that we have will look the same in all of the schools. So we're lining up that way. The phone systems will line up and actually line up with the town, which is something we've wanted to do. So it is like putting puzzle pieces together, but the goal is to have a very coordinated, very, very consistent approach to technology in the district.
So the one you lost me on was the smart classroom being
Yeah.
the same in both schools.
Right, so we're looking to have some type of smart technology, so we're gonna do,
For instance, in
Smart.
Pembroke, it's gonna be whiteboard,
It's
interactive
on the-
whiteboards and.
It's on the back
yeah.
side of what we just
Yeah.
handed out,
Yeah.
so you can follow along.
And we're interactive projectors, and in the high school, it's a mixture of those and LCD TVs, which work well for showing videos
And
for apps and Apple TV.
yeah. They all have the same kind of Apple TV connection, so that the laptops and iPads, or whatever they're using, can connect to the TV, so you can do any kind of displaying they need to do of
So it's
So we'll
interactive.
either have a new, well, I guess the Epson interactive projector has replaced kind of the smart board.
yes.
That's the next.
But it's the same concept.
That's the
It's
next
interactive.
iteration. Instead of having a projector and a whiteboard,
Yeah.
the projector does all the work.
Okay.
It's basically the same method.
All right,
Both have
so
dual interactivity.
We're using the old ones where we think it's smart, which is first grade, kindergarten, right?
Yeah, because they need
Bedroom.
touch capability more than the older kids,
they
so
need to touch
you want to be able to, they can touch the white, an interactive whiteboard, you know, it's older technology, it has the ability to use your finger and.
So then you go to the middle school.
Yeah.
They're gonna have what? They're gonna have the old smart boards?
No, right now they don't have any,
They don't have anything, right?
They have LCD projectors or LCD screens so they can project things. The interactivity isn't as important as you get into middle school and high school as it is in the lower grades where they have to have the ability to tactile and manipulate things on a board, where it's more, they're doing their own projects when you get to, seventh through seniors. So it's not as important. They do need the ability, the teachers need the ability to project.
Alright, so if I was to go to one of these new high schools that have been built around us, Beverly, whatever, you're trying to tell me in that high school classrooms, they don't have a smart board or Epson project, I mean, they don't have that technology in the classroom?
Some of them do, some of them don't. For the most part, they don't need to because they can project. Most of them are one-to-one, and they project from their one-to-one machines to the projector, which is what I'm working towards being able to do in the high school. So if we go to a one-to-one situation, then they'll be able to have interactivity from their seats to the projected screen from their individual device. So we're working towards that interoperability so that we're all the same from K right through the senior.
There are some of those schools you're talking about, Eric, that had a renovation 3-4 years ago. They probably do have smart boards. But the technology changes so quickly that, we work with these consultants and they, continue to tell us, so we.
Well, I understand smart boards are maybe yesterday's thing, but
And more
you
appropriate
still
for-
want something
That's
Yes.
right.
in this middle high
That's right.
school,
And
right?
that's
But a
what-
projector.
And we are doing
There's a
it.
total of
Wes is saying
14.
we really wanna move toward a more
Based on
one-to-one.
the scope of what's going on in the middle high school, and what was approved as the scope, there's 14 new televisions going
Yeah.
in the renovated spaces there. And they're like a 65 or 70-inch screen, I can't remember exactly, but those are all going in the renovated spaces. So it is gonna be the latest and greatest of technology that they're getting in those.
My question would have been, then what's our gap? What are we missing
The middle high school
for
will be our gap.
finances to get
It will be,
all the schools the way we want them right now?
yeah.
What's our gap? But if
Middle
we're
high school
saying,
is our gap.
Because they're gonna leave the sixth
Middle
grade with
high
this
school.
amazing
Classrooms,
technology and
And,
get to the
and
middle
if we
school
do
and not have
something
it.
like a one-to-one, that that might look like. The teachers will be all set. The teachers will be all set.
so
but
do you have a
students-
feel
Hmm?
to get those remaining classrooms up to speed with the new classrooms? How much, what's, financially, what would it take to get all the classrooms there now?
That's what
We're working on
You're
that.
working on that,
We're trying to
okay.
figure out which way to go, yeah.
The good news is the elementary schools will have all state-of-the-art, up-to-date technology, so now the gap really is at the middle high school, whereas before we had gaps all over the place.
Right. So it's a start.
We have to start
It's a
somewhere.
huge start, it's
We
50%
have
of
another year.
the
More than
before
50,
the
yeah.
first graduates from Pembroke will be going up to the high school, middle
Yeah.
high school.
So that's where we have to look at alternative funding sources.
All right, so you've broken it down by.
Well, yeah, but to do
Each
that, we should know
has-
what the number is that we're
Right,
shooting.
exactly,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah.
So,
that's right.
yeah. Sorry.
And this is just a look at what each grade has and how it transitions between the grades. Like Wes said, the 3rd through 6th grades are gonna have a different, interactive projector versus the smart board that has in the lower grades and in the sped rooms that need that more of the touch and the interactivity. And then iPads are being distributed throughout the school in different stations, so.
So when you reach 5th and 6th grade and it's a one-to-one, will they be bringing these home? Are they signing them out?
No.
It's only for in-school
What-
use.
Yeah, the way it's gonna work, they're gonna have it in the classroom. Every classroom's gonna have a charging station. So at night, before they go home, they put their iPads in the charging station. That way, that element of having a discharge when they get to school the next day isn't gonna be there. Really, the use of this technology is in school. I don't think up to 6th grade, sending them home with a piece of equipment is really a smart idea.
So-
Once we get beyond that, it's a different story, but
Right.
K through 6, I
No.
don't, but my intention is not to have them take them home, to charge them overnight so they have them for the whole day when they need them.
They probably have them at home
Now,
anyway.
if a teacher assigns homework that can be done on an iPad and a student owns an iPad, will there be software that has to be installed, or will they just use, Dropboxes and
Yes,
Google
exactly.
Docs, that kind of thing?
Google Docs.
Google Docs, okay. But I use that technology in my own classroom.
As you know.
We're trying to move everybody into the cloud for that reason, so you
Okay.
can have access at school,
Or at
and have
home.
access at home, and parents can have access to what the students are doing at
Right.
home.
And with Google Docs, it doesn't have to be an iPad. They can use
No,
a
it can be
computer.
anything.
And we're buying keyboards with each of those.
Yes, we are buying
So one of
keyboards.
the other things
Oh,
that
the
we are
iPads?
doing is we're buying keyboards that go with each of the iPads, because one of the questions is always, what about the keyboarding skills that kids might need to use? So we actually, for every student, that they will have a keyboard. So they'll be doing that, and we'll have access to apps such as Word and
Yeah.
other things like that.
Yep.
So there can be that type of connection as
And
well.
they'll be able to do the testing on it, which is important.
And we'll be able to use it for testing.
Right.
Well, we're gonna put the Microsoft Word on them?
It might be Word, it's more likely gonna be Google Apps.
Oh, okay,
Could be a combination
It
depending
could
on
be a
the
combination,
need.
depending on the need.
just curious, yeah.
People who can't let go of Word.
I love Word, probably too much.
Eric,
I still have a few questions.
Yeah.
So, the second graders are going to get. I'm just curious on this one. New laptops where everyone else is getting reused laptops.
You're looking at teachers, it's not students, this is teachers. The teachers currently have, most of them have under 2-year-old MacBooks. So in order to save money, we are reusing those.
Yeah.
So many of the teachers are getting new ones. Those who don't have proper MacBooks now, they will be getting new ones next year. Those that currently have a decent MacBook will bring those with them over to the new
And we
school.
lease these.
No, these
No,
are
we
purchased.
purchased.
They're purchased 3-year warranties.
Donna got a lot of them through,
I remember. yeah.
Square One Art, GEF, PTA,
Yeah,
any
yeah.
donate, she had parents that would just donate 4 or 5, these MacBooks. It was just amazing how much was donated.
All right, and then the student will have a 5 iPad station in the room. Just explain that to me. What does that look like?
Okay, it's in a K through 4 situation, after talking to teachers and Margaret, they wanted stations so the students can go to different stations during the day because they do individual learning. And so we decided that instead of a 5-unit MacBook desktop, the iPad would be more useful. So we switched that with the iPad desktop, or the iPad Island, so that they can go to that set of instructions when they want to and do a rotation. And that's how most of these grades are taught now, is the rotation from station to
Could be a
station.
center.
Is that consistent with most other school districts as well, or do they all have their own iPad sitting at their desk?
It
in some of
really
these classrooms?
depends. It really depends. The kids at this school, in those grades, will have access to an iPad lab, so if there's things that the teacher wants to do, she can sign out the lab and work with the whole class at one time. Or there's the opportunity, so we have students sometimes who need to work at a specific reading program where they work at their own pace, like Accelerated Reader or something like that. That way, during the course of the day, teachers can have students working on the computer, either on projects that they're working on or individualized learning. So that was our thinking, is that we have several classrooms, like Cheryl Lashender and a few other teachers used to have 5 or 6 computers in their room, and everybody said how much they appreciate that. They didn't want to take the whole class to the lab necessarily, because there's a lot of things that go on during the day that would be great to have. There are some students with special education plans who are on software that helps them organize their writing. They can go over and work on a computer. The only one-to-ones we did were in 5th and 6th
I
grade.
think I know what your question is. The teacher has the ability. There are cards. There are going to be some cards that will outfit the entire class. So a teacher can sign out a card, which she can bring to her room, and every kid in the room can have one
if she needs
to
one
work.
for that type of lesson.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Or
There's
take
two
them
types.
to the library.
Yeah, there's 2 types of carts. There's an iPad cart and there's a MacBook cart. So if they need more power, they need a laptop, that MacBook cart is available to them, and the iPad cart is available to them.
Alright.
They
So-
also have a iMac lab in the media center, and there's a PC lab available to them as well.
And the 5
So that was
there's
all kind of what I was
plenty.
getting at. But here's the other thing
Yeah.
I was trying to get at is I know we're taking a major step, but are we taking the full step? Are we competitive with other school districts as far as where we're going with technology? Are we still short on when it comes to, even with this big step with all this new stuff, Are we doing everything we need to do to be competitive
At
in the
this age-
technology world with other school districts?
At this age level, we are,
Yes.
because they don't necessarily need an iPad all day long
Yeah, for
at
every
the younger
lesson.
grades. At fifth and sixth grade level, they do, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're giving that, each classroom, all their own iPads. So every student will have one in class.
And then,
Do you feel that, is that how, and the teachers also had input on this. You know, this is the route that they felt was best for them,
so in fifth and sixth, they all have an iPad,
right?
and then they go to seventh, and what happens?
There's
Well,
also
that's the
that.
lull.
That, our plan is to.
Hopefully
is to
when they
try and
get
put
there.
something in place for the seventh graders, when the sixth graders move into seventh grade, so that's a year from now, have something in place for one-to-one for them.
And that's part of what you're figuring out where our gap is financially to
That's
get
what
everything
I'm
up to
saying,
speed.
yes.
That's right.
All right. When do you think you'll? Not trying to put pressure, but when do you think you'll have that plan finalized as far as what you need?
We're close to it
Well, I was
now.
gonna say, we're not far from it.
We're not far from it now, it's just how, what to use and how to use it. It's probably gonna be a lease deal of some sort, and,
Okay.
and it costs per month on a lease on an iPad, it's like $10 a month, and for a MacBook Air, it's like 15, so we're.
And what's the
trying to
typical
decide.
lease period? Is it a year, 2 years? Because those things turn every 2 years, probably, right?
Yeah. You know, iPad's so new, I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
MacBooks, you got probably, MacBook Airs probably the last 6-7 years, but, you know, like I say, technology marches on, so I could say that today, and 3 years from now, I could say it's not so anymore.
Right.
It's just hard to judge. You just do the best you can with figuring out where you're going in the future.
What do they
Try
have
to
today
get there.
in the seventh grade, eighth grade? Nothing?
Nothing,
Nothing.
Nothing.
no, that's a huge gap.
That's why to get, that's
Right.
why the
The
whole
sixth
school, the
graders
whole
don't-
district has to get somewhere.
But
Yep.
now, the technology plan that you're working on, and that the technology committee is working on, is that, are you aiming to have that ready for June or
Yes, that's my
June?
goal.
Okay,
So that's probably the answer to your question.
It's a lot of work, and we're just starting to pull it apart, to put it back together again, but yes.
sure, yeah. So it's a process, and a lot of people are working on it.
Yeah,
I
some
went
places
to the
do
last
one-to-one,
technology
some
meeting.
places do bring your own device, they tell you, here are the 3 or 4 devices that we sanction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's a lot of ways to go with it, and many districts go with iPads, other districts, go with Chromebooks.
I know, so I understand, I mean, look where technology is, as fast as it goes, but in our schools now, it's been part of our teaching for, I don't know how many years now, right? Now, we haven't had it in Georgetown, but other districts have. At some point, they have to be saying, okay, here's the recommended best way to do this.
You know,
No,
it's
not
really
there
funny,
yet.
that's,
That's.
we sat with
Wait a
CSI,
moment, it'll change.
Yeah.
they said you
You
can do
blink
this, you
your eyes
can
and
do
somebody's
this,
got a
you can
different
do this.
idea.
Right.
And some people do Apple versus.
PC,
so-
so.
Right.
There's really a lot
It's-
of
it's
huge
all up
decision
to
to
you.
go the way.
I do have one question though. Will there be training for the teachers
That's what's.
on how to use things like Google Docs, and who does those?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I'm working on a plan for that. We're working on professional development over the summer. Our professional, I got 2 half days next year for professional development during the school year, during teacher conference days. So I'm trying to get more. We need more.
Right.
That's something that we're lacking in is PD and technology, and I'm working diligently to get.
Because
like-
that's the
There
other
is huge.
facet.
That's huge.
There is
To have that
Right.
technology, they need the
Right,
training.
there is training built in with the technology in terms of the equipment that they're receiving, so the vendors will do that as part of this contract.
Oh, that's good.
But if
But
there
they
are
need the
additional
time to
apps
do
and
it.
stuff that are gonna become standards, then yes, those have to be.
Those they need,
Yeah.
right.
We have some really strong internal people, teachers that have
Who
been
just have that
offering things like
interest.
Tech Tuesdays and, voluntarily, opening up, their classrooms to, any and all of the new technologies. We've had a lot of teachers who have sort of taken advantage of that, and our goal would be to, eventually it would be wonderful if we could have a technology integration specialist in our budget, which would be a full-time person who would literally go around and coach the teachers. First priority is getting in place, making decisions
there.
about what we need, and then, our goal is to identify, someone in each school to, be available some portion of time to help coach and work with teachers and conduct professional development, as you're asking about, Ellie.
And then, you know, with the 5 iPad station, I mean, I'm kind of thinking, is that all they need? Is that, it would be interesting to hear at the end of the next year. Were teachers finding that they wished they had 2 more, if only they had 7, or are they going to be finding that 5 is just perfect? Are they going to be, you know?
Well, I can attest for what Wes has been doing in conjunction with our consultants is trying to stick to a budget as well, because we have
Right,
$1,200 per student
exactly.
to use for this. And it's not just on the equipment that you see, it's on a lot of the equipment that you don't see, the switches and things that are in the
Sure.
IDF closets and MDF closets as well. So I think based on the budget that they've had and what they're able to do with all the grades and with the teachers here, I think
Right.
they've done a tremendous job of trying to get as much one-to-one as possible with the upper grades and then worth what is required, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah,
just,
I just-
if we identified that kind of gap, that would be a
It's
goal
also-
for
Right.
fundraising,
According
for,
to
you
my
know, for PTA.
thought that crossed my head there,
and
though, if we
for
were gonna dip into
GEF.
contingency at some point for anything, I mean, wouldn't technology be near the top
What-
of that list?
Yeah, and there is a contingency available at the end, and there can be change orders at the end of this too, because we don't know where the bids are gonna come in on this as well. And so something that we, you know, everyone can be thinking ahead, it's a good point, if there were additional items that could be ordered, they could be done after
A
as change
couple of points.
orders.
Yeah, the reason we're talking about this, the reason it's on the agenda is because we're at that point where we're just about to go out to bid
Right.
to purchase the loose, if you wanna call it that, equipment. There's a lot of built-in stuff in the building that's already part of Braid's contracts in
Right.
terms of cabling and
Sure.
wireless networks and things, you know, already there. But the loose stuff is what we're gonna go out to bid on. The other point, in terms of additional purchases, one thing you wanna sort of say to yourself as a town, because the $1,200 is the MSBA's limit, and it's gonna be 100% on you anyways. Do you really wanna buy a device that's gonna be outdated in 3 years with a bond that you're, you know, a 20-year bond? So, there's some financing issues there that other districts have wrestled with too.
It's also a function of space. You know, by the time the teachers get everything into their classrooms that they want to have in their classrooms, it's gonna be tough to find place for more than 5 computer workstations.
Which is what's nice about the iPad.
Yeah, we reduce the
Yeah.
space,
Because-
space
Yeah.
used up in the classroom.
Those
Yeah.
desktops
Yeah.
really limit you. At least with an iPad, a teacher can send a kid out in the hallway even to work. They have all those, we have all those nice breakout areas. where
In the
kids
same
can
way,
work.
we're assessing what we're doing with the FF&E for the furniture items. We're a little bit projected under budget right now. There are some items that, you know, Mike Anderson wanted to add in terms of maintenance
Right.
equipment and things like that. We're gonna assess this the same way and go through it with a comb and see if anything else, any opportunities are there, so. And right now, the budget, is, I think we're like a few thousand over the 924, which is the 924,000 is the $1,200 per student.
$1,200 per student.
Right, right. So it's the same for both the furniture and for the technology. And this one right now is only, the technology is only a few thousand over. The projected budget for FF&E was well over, and they're coming in right now under at 905. Now, that's provided we have some alternates and some rebid stuff that has to be done, but that allowance is built within that 905. And you can see that at, in the PDF that we sent, and we have copies here that we can distribute too. But
And how many bids do you typically get on technology or the furniture or technology?
it's, you get like a series of anywhere from like 15 to 30 plus envelopes depending on how many vendors, and they all bid on different things. So it takes a while to kind of evaluate
Go
those
through it.
bids.
But it's pretty specific, right? You want X amount of smart,
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
That's correct.
jet
Yeah.
fuel.
But there's different
What-
vendors for the
right.
same stuff.
Wes has, what is it, like a 144 page document? I
Yeah.
forget how many page, we didn't distribute that, but it talks about every piece of equipment that goes into every room and every space. All the way from what's going into the MDF, the main distribution room, all the closets, and then all of the equipment as well.
So this is really just to give the committee an idea of the projected
Scope.
technology
Are the bids
Right.
like
scope, right?
the construction bids? You take we take the,
The low,
No, you have
it's a little
more
different.
flexibility in both furniture and equipment. That you can take the best value.
or, Okay.
Right,
You
and we
don't
didn't,
have to literally go by the lowest, and there's a lot of substitutions and alternatives too, it's not like there's a hard and fast specification, if you can't meet it, we throw you out.
Right, cause if they're not gonna bid on everything, there could be separate,
right, like for
companies that
example,
you
they
work
may
with.
have a
Right.
different desk product that's similar to the one that we specify, and that's what's on the schedule in terms of reviewing mock-ups next week. We're gonna go with Margaret and Carol and Mike Anderson and look at what they're submitting as alternates for the
We're talking
desks
about
and
furniture
products.
now.
To
You
see
know,
if the
yeah, yeah.
quality is the
That,
same.
that same thing will be done for the technology if they propose alternates.
and I had one
But we don't
question
have
about
to.
those carts. So it's one cart for the whole, 2 carts for the whole school, one with the iPads and one with the MacBooks,
Yes, that is correct.
and the teachers
But
can sign
don't,
them.
don't remember this, the fifth and sixth have one-on-one, they won't be using those at all.
Right, okay, right.
So you're probably talking kindergarten through fourth
They
grade.
probably park one on the first floor, one on the second floor.
To get under the, like, the furniture budget, is it like red line items? You can say, okay, we're not gonna get the
You can choose.
$6,000 xylophones or something like that, or?
Exactly, you can choose not to do that.
Sounds like the
If it
perfect
came in
plan.
over, we would
It's
definitely
usually
do
the
it.
$30,000 piano
Yeah.
get axed.
It's not the 32-gallon red trash cans in dollars. We need those.
All right. So is there anything else you want to tell us about the technology?
The schedule is on the front side of that
Yeah.
sheet there. As we mentioned, we are getting ready to go out to bid with the target of getting bids in March. And it works into the schedule, as Pat talked about it, that if the building is substantially complete, then the furniture can then be moved in, then the technology can follow on, and you have a place, a desk to put the computers on, and racks to put, servers on and things like that. So it's a good sequence and a good schedule right now.
Right.
Will we be putting the computers out during the summer?
Be
Yes.
Installing them after the
Installing.
building is
Yeah,
already,
Wes will be busy this
What a-
summer.
July date.
You have to
Gotta
get
make
them all
sure
pulled
that the,
together.
That's why the
That the
building is
network
turned
is
over to the
working,
owner, and
yeah.
you're responsible for
Yeah,
security.
it's gotta be lockable rooms and.
Because at that point, it's your building.
Right.
This summer, it's your building.
Yeah, security's gotta be, I won't put anything in there, security's up and running
Right.
and doors are lockable.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
As a parent of a future, 4th and 5th grader, I think this is awesome.
Wes, thank you very much for coming. You know, if you want to go, that's fine.
He has a little bit of a drive.
I appreciate that too.
Yeah, I heard you have quite a drive,
It's a little
so
bit of a hike.
I do appreciate you staying and,
Anytime you need
Where
to.
does he live?
Thanks.
Vermont?
He lives in Vermont.
Live just I'm just over the border from Athol.
He makes a long commute,
Wow.
and he does it every day
Every
without
day.
complaining.
Well, you don't hear me call it.
Well, good point. But when you come, you have a smile on your face,
No, I'm
even
all
if
set
you've
by
gone through.
well,
that
thank
time
you
drive.
again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Wes.
All right, so we want to move on to the FF&E then?
Sure, on the same sheet, obviously, you can see the schedule, it's kind of, as we just described it, the furniture is about a month ahead of the technology schedule, so
They have extra.
we went out to bid, earlier, and we've already received bids on furniture and equipment.
See Wes.
Um,
Drive safe.
That consisted of a much thinner spec, but still a spec book and then a set of plans. I think we showed you those plans last time. Every room, the furniture is laid out in and so forth.
Here, take that.
And as Courtney mentioned, that procuring furniture is a little bit different than the kind of lump sum bids you get on the building itself. You get some bidders, some vendors who will submit bids, because they sell desks and chairs, but they don't sell file cabinets or, flags or pencil sharpeners. So it's a real mixed bag of the bids you get, and there's a long list. We have a multi-page document with a lot of lines
Oh, that
on it.
must be unbelievable.
And
many
you have to
items?
basically,
A lot of items.
Yeah.
I don't know, thousands.
Yeah, there's a lot of audience.
And so, you don't necessarily have to take the low bidder in each category, because sometimes it makes sense to buy things from one vendor, and their price, for their files might be a little bit higher, but they have a good price on desks and chairs, and it makes sense to get it all from one vendor. And in a few cases, out of what, 900, items?
We have,
There
like,
were several that we didn't get bids on.
like page 13, there's some custodial equipment, you'll see it in the middle of the page. For example, like the gas snow blower, some cleaning equipment, auto scrubbers for the floors. Those things didn't receive bids, so they'll be be put out for rebid, and then there's also some items that are state contract purchase items. So, those will go out to rebid. If we don't get that, then state contract purchase is an easy alternative. And it's usually decent pricing as well.
Get all new band equipment?
There's a good.
I don't know if it's all
It's not
new.
completely all new. You're not getting all
Can't
new
say it's all
instruments
new,
and
but-
everything, but there is a good amount of stuff that's new that they get. You know, they get all new instrument storage. They get certain accessories. I think there's Orff music instruments and things like that. I'd have to go. I'd have to read it off.
French horns are-
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a French horn in
I
here?
have a question for Margaret.
Wow.
Did you have different sized children sit on the furniture?
We talked to.
I didn't actually have the children, I measured the furniture that they have, you know, the chairs they use.
We talked a lot about seat heights.
And I'm telling you this just from experience. My daughter was 5 feet in 6th grade, and my son was 5'11". And there's an enormous difference in what kinds of chairs you're comfortable in.
Yeah, and the other thing, Ellie, that we spent great deal of time talking about was that the chairs needed to be adjustable.
Right.
So that not only is.
And the
are they-
desk.
Yes,
And
right,
the
so
desk.
there's a range, but then even within that range, there's still some flexibility.
Good.
Yes.
So you feel pretty good that
We had to push pretty hard about those adjustable chairs.
There's some
people don't
adjustable-
understand how
She wanted the what are those called?
The C chairs. The
C
C
chairs.
chairs.
I was gonna say S
Oh,
chairs.
yeah.
C chairs.
I don't know
Yeah.
what that is.
Which kind of rock and they're.
Oh,
they're
yes,
good-
I know what you
put
mean.
'em on the desk.
In a profile.
You can lift up the chair.
Yes,
put it
we
on
have
the
those
desk.
in Haverhill, and I'm so glad you didn't take those, because I believe I talked to Margaret about that. The problem with those is where the bar is on the table and the desk, all the students go to cross their legs and they can't, and they keep whacking their shins. So I'm glad. But I understand why she wanted them. They're great for cleaning, just pick it up and you slide it right on top of
Right.
the desktop.
Futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
We went with classic.
I know.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
classic stuff
Classic.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really did go with the classics.
Durable,
Stand the
long
test of
lasting.
time.
Right.
And they are durable and they will last. Okay.
And again, the specifications include, all the finishes too, so the colors and fabrics and all that, so the bidders know what they're bidding on.
Those are the chairs that will be at the breakout areas at the end of the hall.
There's a few fun chairs, soft chairs in the breakout areas. Attached chairs in the cafeteria, so you can,
Like what they have
again,
now.
quick setup and they fold and you can move them out of the way. Stackable chairs for audience, auditorium setup. Again, some
library.
soft seating in the library. And again, you can see some of the leaf patterns and things that are gonna show up in the fabrics that go with the building decorations as well. Teacher chairs in cases, office workstations, that sort of thing, and then, these are just the base interior materials to match up against, that's already in the building, so. And like Courtney said, we're not,
huge.
ready to make a recommendation tonight to award these numbers, but that's what the meeting is in, 2 weeks. When we get the rebids or the substitutes, all worked out, then we can come to you with a, and I think our furniture consultant is gonna join us to answer your questions, Nancy, so that, we can award the package, and then we'll work with the town to write out purchase orders, because each vendor needs a separate purchase order to proceed with, the procurement.
All right.
So, but everything's on schedule and under budget at this point, which is good news.
Anyone have any questions on these?
Some of the conference room chairs are $1,000.
Are they? I couldn't tell you, George, but if that's what the spreadsheet says.
What page are you on?
Yeah, where's that?
I read it before.
You sure that's
before the
each?
meeting.
You sure that's each?
Each.
Is it?
What page?
Seems
What page are you on, George?
How much do these chairs cost, I wonder?
The chairs are more expensive, and usually it's due to the fabrics and the treatment that they have to have, because they all have to meet like Cal 117 or 133 to make sure that they meet fire code in a commercial versus like, you know, a residential chair or something like that. So a lot of times the fabrics are what drives up the prices.
Really?
How about the pebble chair? That was,
The pebble chair is the one that,
round one?
the round one that Carl showed. It's actually in the library. Yeah. Oh, nope. Not that one. The ones that are in the library.
Oh, these guys, yeah.
And they're situated in like various spots for, in reading zones.
$600?
Yep.
And how many?
I think I can count them
Is
real
it a
quick.
grouping of them?
There's a grouping of a total of 6 of them. So they kind of fit together and nest together like little
It's like building
caterpillars.
products.
Yeah.
It's there's a sticker shock when you go from residential to commercial grade
Yeah.
of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I've learned from being around this, if you went to the store and bought it, you could probably get a better deal. But that's just not how it works.
For most of this stuff, actually, like for the commercial stuff, if you went to a furniture store, it would be up there in the same realm for a lot of these things. If
Furniture maybe,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there are items that we buy,
We could get cheaper, yeah.
yes, but
It's a different quality. It's
di-
kind of like
right,
buying it at
different.
Home
You're
Depot
looking at the
versus
list price too,
yeah.
George.
Jordan's Furniture.
It's
I
the
mean,
next
if you looked at
price,
some of
that's
those and
the-
pictured them
the
in Jordan's
unit cost.
Furniture, I could.
They're gonna be
It's a game. I don't know.
It's different
Nobody
quality.
pays. Nobody
Yeah.
pays list
There's
price.
that too.
It's
Nobody
there's stuff
pays
that you
list
Carl,
don't.
they're gonna be,
yeah.
they're gonna
Yeah.
be delivering, uncrating and setting it up, are they not?
Where
That
is
too.
this
That too.
$1,000?
Yeah,
So that's the other piece of
This
the
is all
puzzle.
delivered.
This is all delivered and
Sometimes
installed.
there's
They
installation
gotta
like
uncrate, they gotta
attaching the
put it
legs,
together, you know,
and they put it in place.
and they gotta put everything in place.
Take away the trash.
Yeah.
You know, sort of everything.
and that does factor in quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still not sure we need $1,000 conference chairs, but.
Again, is that the list price
But-
or
Where
the?
is this?
But
I'm trying
You
to.
that might,
What
if they have
page
to be
is
put
this?
together,
I'm not
then
sure
we're
what
paying someone to put them
Look
together.
at any of these. You know, there's such a difference.
Oh, I
between
know.
What page is
List
I don't
price.
know, do you know where you saw them?
conference chairs?
Professional chairs.
Not unheard of, though.
I saw the tables, but I did not see.
The seating on that, on the first
This one?
page, there's a bunch
Oh,
of
there is
professional
conference.
chairs, yeah.
Those aren't $1,000.
Where'd you see thousand?
The Cody chair, which is a lounge chair that's located like in the library or the reception area, those are more expensive, and they are more fabric covered too.
Yeah, those are nice.
And, and they're not constructed the same way you see, like the framing of those is pretty sturdy. It's designed for high impact use.
No, the typical conference room chairs I think are 500.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, no, there were two, executive, I think they
conference.
call them executive chairs or something.
Executive
I'd say
chairs.
That would be like the
687.
principal's, probably the
687.
principal's chair.
Is that
would
your
be an
chair,
executive.
Margaret?
It's not,
the
it's not
wheels off.
anything out of the norm.
You got a massage bar that goes up and down the back, huh?
How much did we spend on
We
the
had no
chairs for
idea
our
that cost
office?
In that range.
Yeah, the chairs that we have in our
680
office are in that
687.
range.
Right.
687, well,
Yeah.
we feel better.
Now, you're looking at these lounge chairs. Right?
Oh, those are the ones
Guys.
in the treehouse.
The building costs $46 million.
I know. What's
Let's not
$100
wear ourselves
for
out.
Margaret's
Besides, you
chair?
gotta realize that kids are using these.
Oh, mini.
The most destructive thing in a computer is
chairs-
keyboard
these
in a
chairs
school. They
will-
get beat to death.
Yeah.
These chairs will last for 50 years, right?
50? Yeah, I don't know about 50.
The desk might.
The desk
Yeah, the desk will.
No one spills coffee on them, you know.
And the good, but you know, the good thing is, the fabrics that they
milk.
make now
Milk.
are made with these polypropylenes.
Well, they
that
have to have a
make it
certain
so
number
easy to
of rubs.
clean.
It's funny because you look at the back of the fabric sample and we don't specify anything that's under a certain number of rubs, and they literally test the fabric
Yep.
and make sure that it goes like 50,000, 100,000. Like some
So they don't
fabrics don't make the
pill.
cut, so it's kind of interesting to see how they specify.
And they clean, if you spill your coffee on it, it just bounces off and you wipe it up. I mean, that's what you need in a school, otherwise.
That's right, it gets a lot of,
Right.
a lot of wear and tear.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why they're gonna last 50 years.
Right, so you're
Right.
gonna have to look at it as a whole and not just Margaret bought a nice chair.
Exactly.
And just keep telling yourself it's all delivered,
Worth it.
uncrated,
Yeah.
assembled, put in place, trash all removed, so that's probably 20% of the cost.
50% reimbursable by MSBA.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
I like that, I like
That's the best
that.
part.
That sweetens the pot.
For sure. All right, any other comments, questions? And this will be coming around again. This is
Right.
Yes.
just the start. It's been a huge project. It's hard to believe we're near the end.
Carol, Margaret, can't
Yeah.
wait till next
It's
fall.
gonna be beautiful, it's going to be
Carol thought
beautiful.
putting all this bed stuff together was a problem. All right, so that brings us to, we have a PSS to vote on. If we can, if everyone's done with this, I'd like to move on. Okay.
This is PSS number 18. It's really a service during the demolition of the existing school, because there's gonna be asbestos abatement. You're required to do indoor air quality testing and monitoring, make sure the containment is in place, make sure the air is clean, after they're done, before allowing anyone back in the space. So it's generally, and I think they've budgeted a certain number of
Yeah,
days.
yeah, 30 shifts.
30 shifts. It may not turn out to be that many days, in which case they won't bill for that, but that's what they base their budget on.
Is
These
this
are consultants,
typical?
Smith and Wessel.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
it's really mandatory.
required,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, it's mandatory, because
Yeah.
what happens, besides just obviously observing the work, they're the only ones that can go inside that enclosure. And they're the only ones knowing how much a quantity's coming out. So there's quantities that obviously these people are bidding on that are part of the specifications. So they will also be in
Yeah,
that
that's a
area
good point.
to monitor the quantity, because there's no other way of us knowing how much they take out. So the spec will
Otherwise, the
tell them.
contractor could come out and say,
Yeah.
I took out twice as much pipe insulation as you said was in there, and we wouldn't have any way to verify it,
So
because
why-
some of us can go in there.
Why doesn't this get billed in with the proposed, I guess I don't understand why they call it as PSS
Yeah, the standard
instead of.
MSBA contract excludes hazardous materials from our scope.
Okay.
And deals with it on sort of a case-by-case basis, so.
It's really critical, because what we want to see done is, at the end of every day, when they're done and they're wrapping up, that both the foreman of the hazmat group and the hygienist, who are the only two people inside that enclosure, agree on the quantities that were removed. And that makes it a lot easier, and then there's no fighting later on or anything else, because if you lose track of that, then everybody is fighting about the quantities and how much got removed, because it's based on unit prices and the quantities in the spec. So if it's done properly,
Right.
you've got proper oversight, you've got proper, you're conforming to all the requirements, you have all your test reports, you've got your clean air notices, and you have the quantity removed, and it makes the requisition process very straightforward.
Okay.
And like Carl said, this is an allowance. It's not, they may not hit this actual number, but that's kind of allowance of what they expect based on what they actually did the work and all the existing building assessment during the design phase. So they know the building well, and that's why they placed this budget on there.
Okay.
And the existing building comes down when then?
Soon as school's
Soon
out,
as-
like a
soon
week
as
later.
School's out, yeah.
Soon as
Once we
everybody's
move
out.
all the stuff that we want out of there.
Sooner the better, yeah.
Well, first they'll do abatement, then they'll do demolition.
How long does that take, just out of curiosity?
Well, you just saw 30
Well,
days.
they're
Well,
allowing
it's gonna
30
take
30
days
30 days.
for abatement. The demolition will go faster probably than that, but
Yeah.
somewhere in there, 2 months,
I
probably.
mean, there's about $500,000
Yeah.
worth of abatement in that range, yeah.
Yeah, 464.
Okay. So you're gonna bring that to us, or we have it?
You
Because
have
the
it.
one
Then
I have says 14.
14?
That's change order 14. We have 3 copies here of the PSS.
Oh, you have it, okay.
I'm sorry, we
I
sent
thought
it
it was in front of me
electronically.
and I was a little
I was
confused.
to do it, so.
Oh,
All right,
sorry.
well, that clears
You
it.
had it electronically.
All right.
What's the,
There's 3 copies to look
Okay.
at there.
16?
Yeah, and then you put the markup.
Could you send it out electronically
We had distributed
sent it
it
to
last
you
week,
guys.
so they have it, yep,
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, so we will vote on, you want us to vote on this tonight then?
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Okay, so the total comes to $18,480, and this is PSS number 18. Would anyone care to make a motion? And not to exceed this $18,480?
So moved.
Second.
Anyone have any other questions on it? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Well, then that brings me to number 14. All right, okay.
Ellie has one.
No, this is 14.
That's it right there.
And then I'll go back to setting a date. We'll just wrap everything else up. All right, so this, want to explain what the change order is for? I think you all have a copy in front of you, change order number 14.
You wanna walk
Yep.
through that, Cal?
We'll go through the items briefly here. The first one, PCO number 34, revision number 2. It seems like a lot more than 2 revisions this has gone through, but this is a somewhat typical change order for projects like this, where the steel detailer and fabricator has to change things slightly from the way they were drawn on the contract documents, because there's so many different connections, and this building with angles and slopes and things like that. Invariably, some things change a bit from the contract documents to the way they actually build it. This started out at somewhere, was it north of 50,000, Chuck, or
Right.
60? 50, yeah, almost $60,000, because they want to get paid for everything, and we say, well, wait a minute, you deleted a piece of steel here, even though you added one here, and there was a lot of back and forth.
They also want
A lot.
additional charges for additional drawing costs for
Yes.
that,
Right,
and for
right.
additional engineering costs. And we've always used the philosophy that, as we sat down with them and said, if you can show me you provided an extra pound of steel, I'll pay you for that extra pound of steel.
Right.
That's fair.
Yeah,
So that's what this reflects, is this is for the extra material.
right.
Okay.
Legitimate.
So there
And
was
Chuck-
extra tons of steel,
Chuck
you know,
can attest to
basically.
the hours of back and
Yeah.
forth
Yeah.
Way
that
too
was
long.
spent on
This
this.
thing's been going for, negotiations of this have been going for the neighborhood of 6 months.
6 months, yeah, so.
And has the cost of steel gone down? Can we-
No, that's not part of the change at all. It's all based on, you know, the price when they bid it.
Right.
Number 67, media center light fixtures. This is in that high bay space with the tall glass windows. The one, yeah, the light fixtures aren't in there yet, but in this space, in the photo. Originally, we had specified these hanging light fixtures that were kind of like, it was one fixture, but it had 3 separate lights
Endings.
hanging from it. It turns out that really couldn't be installed the way we wanted it on a sloped ceiling. So we changed it to 3 individual lights. It was the same basic amount of light, but from the electrician's point of view, there was more work in hanging 3 fixtures, and legitimately so in the end, and we negotiated the price there of $2,800. PCO number 68, that stands for curtain wall number 2, brake metal. Brake metal is basically sheet metal used to close gaps in things. Again, sort of a construction coordination issue when they installed that curtain wall, because of some of the unforeseen steel connection pieces. The curtain wall ended up having to be a little bit further outside the building than originally intended, so to close the gaps on either end, and these run 3 stories high, they had to fabricate both for inside and outside additional sheet metal there. So again, it's quantity of metal, additional metal that they had to provide in installing it for that $4,800. Number 69, modified canopy steel. This is the north and south canopies, both, Courtney? Yeah.
Yes.
The short ends of the building, the kindergarten end, the teacher's entrance end of the building, there were some cantilevered canopies there that are very shallow, that project out. And we have some roof drains in there. In order to get the piping back into the building to connect, they actually had to cut some steel to get the pipes through there. Again, it wasn't, shown on the drawings. It was a field change they had to make. They did do the work. They just, again, for some reason, 6 months later, they submitted the change, even though we all documented that it did happen. They did have to provide that extra work. And likewise, number 70, the canopy AVB stands for air and vapor barrier. Those two canopies are fabricated a little bit different than the other overhangs and all. And so they needed a different kind of air and vapor barrier. Basically, the entire building, from foundation all the way up to the roof, back down again, is wrapped completely so that air and vapor can't go through. At those canopies, it was required that it come out, actually go around the canopy, back in and up, and it wasn't detailed that way in the drawing. So they just carried straight, but it really had to go in and out to follow the canopies. So that's the additional value there, was getting that complete wrapping of the building. PCO 72 breakout areas, we added some ceiling tiles. These are in those areas in the center of the classroom wings where the corridor's extra wide and there's some built-in benches. There's some clouds in the ceilings, and there's ceiling grids. Originally, they were just grids that were colored, that had some light fixtures in them, and then above them was a higher ceiling, a black ceiling. Well, in those clouds, it turns out, in order to install certain light fixtures and a couple other accessories, it really made sense to have some tiles, not just have open grids. So we added some ceiling tiles, and they happen to be colored too, because the grids are colored. I don't know if they show up in the pictures yet, but
They don't.
they're,
I have some here, but.
yeah, but they're very nice spaces. They're going to be fun, and the ceilings go with that. And they happen on every floor and in the kindergarten area. So there's 4 different areas. That's what those are. And then the extra keys, number 74, was a request by Mike Anderson. In our spec, I think we own 2 keys for every lock, and he wanted more in certain cases.
Actually,
So,
these are master keys, additional master keys.
master keys.
only.
Okay.
And it's obviously, these are keys that you say, do not copy, do not copy. You'd have to find something special to do these for him.
Yeah, it's true. In the future, if you went back to the manufacturer to get those keys, they charge you a lot to
more.
duplicate them.
So it's cheaper to buy an extra set for every master key, and there are various master keys. There's certain levels.
Yeah.
There's ultra grandmaster and grandmasters and supreme grandmasters, and then there's the key that can open everything in the world over there. And
Is that yours?
I bet even Carol doesn't have that one. I bet it's just Mike.
So
You may
Mike was
not want that
100%
one.
right in asking.
I may
He said,
not
"You know
want
what,
that
I'd
one."
love to have a couple of extra of those." So
Yeah.
he's gonna take them. All the keys, just so you know, for the security standpoint, those keys are about ready to be sent here. That's why the change order. All those keys are being sent directly to the school department, and the school department will sign for them and will keep them. We will not see them, the contractors will not see them, and therefore you won't have any opportunity for somebody to duplicate or walk off with those keys.
Or to point fingers, at others.
So therefore, if keys are needed, once we get in to do punch lists and stuff, Mike will work with us to make sure that things are accessible, once permanent locks are put in.
Yeah, during the construction, the contractor installs a removable, what's
Right.
called construction
Cylinder,
core.
yeah.
Yeah,
So he can lock the building.
Changes the
But it's
core.
not the permanent
Yeah.
Lock.
yeah,
Well, that makes a lot of sense to order
Right.
those keys.
Absolutely.
I
This was
think
a
so
smart
too.
Okay?
Okay. All right, so would anyone like to make a motion to approve change order number 14 for the amount of $44,858.74?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So now we need to set up another meeting, because we need to vote on the furniture.
Right, it should be a pretty quick meeting.
And they were hoping we could do it the 24th, if everyone could check their calendars.
we've been assured that you will get the full final list
before then.
before, so you've had an opportunity to review it.
And you can ask Nancy about the $1,000 chairs, why they're a good value.
Oh, why Margaret's worth it. Well, I know why. If she walks around all day long, by the time the kids leave, she should have something good to sit on. And she sits down to do
So
her
you're
work.
looking at
Yeah.
24th?
He'll
The
get
24th, Tuesday.
I will not be there.
Okay.
She got one for us.
You good? How are you guys? The 24th is it's the last Tuesday
Excuse me, John.
in February, so 2 weeks from tonight. Okay.
I can do any day that week but that day.
Something drastic comes up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like someone goes
I will send out a note letting the rest of the people in the committee know so they can put it on their calendar also.
Courtney, deep dive.
And if it's gonna be a quick meeting, we might even just do it downstairs. Because I'm not
Having
sure.
dinner in North Carolina.
I hope you enjoy it. All right, so tentatively, we all look good. Or 5 of us look good for that, so I don't think there'll be a problem getting a quorum for it. And like Chuck said, he'll send it out.
Courtney will send it out, but we will get it to you.
Okay. I did have a question for all of you. I passed my phone around and showed you some pictures I took when I went into the building last week. How do you feel about putting them out there on Facebook or on the school
Oh,
website?
yes.
Oh, I think you should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there is the website, there are pictures on the website. I don't know
Yes.
how up
I
to
don't
date they
know-
are.
Right, and I don't know how often people are going there, but
Probably
I
not,
was thinking
yeah.
of putting some just on Facebook,
Sure,
for people to share and pass around.
yeah, yeah.
So
yeah.
that's why, I just wanna make sure everyone
Can you
was
get
good
those
about that.
pictures to me at all?
Yeah, I'll put them on Facebook and you can share them from there.
Okay.
All right, do you want me to email them to you?
Is that difficult?
No.
Email.
If you
You
give me
could
your
do
cell
it.
phone number, I'll just forward them from my phone
Okay,
to you.
that'd be great.
I'll
yeah.
message them over. Okay, anything else?
Committee might wanna think about another visit to the.
Yes, I actually was just talking
When
about
we're
now
that.
that flooring is going in.
Now,
Yes.
when were those pictures taken?
I took them last week.
Okay.
So when would you guys like to go for another tour?
But Chuck makes a good point, you had to just wait till we can get through this winter, you know, the
The snow.
winter
and
crush, I
salt.
would say,
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't
Do
do
it
it
in
before.
March?
Sometime
Yeah,
March or April, maybe?
The end of March.
So maybe
Yeah.
when we meet in 2 weeks, we can assess the situation and
Yeah.
decide if we want to do it before the
See-
March meeting or
See how
not.
far the snow's gone.
Right.
I think it's gonna go up.
I'm hoping,
It's gonna
I'm good
get
thoughts
warmer
going
and
down.
It's gonna be nice. The sun's gonna get
It'll
warmer.
be summer
It's
all of
gonna
a sudden, yeah.
That's right. It was
What is
melting
it,
today.
34 days?
It was melting today.
It did melt
A
a
little
little today.
Optimistic. You're right, it did get warmer.
Okay, then I think that's it. Everyone else set?
Yep.
Want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Motion carried?
Good seeing
Okay,
everybody.
Thank you, everyone, it's great to see you. I'm gonna do this for you right now, Pam.
Oh, that'd be
You
awesome.
guys might have a feel
Because
for
I
this.
post to the
I have a
Georgetown
12-foot
Public
retaining wall in my